Hello, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I am joined today by two very good friends, Catherine Edwards and Frank Schultz. Thank you both for being with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about activating your body's divine abilities, the ASEA water that I myself take. And we're going to get into the power of this ASEA water, the redox, spiritual and cellular power of this ASEA redox, and what is that all about? So, Catherine Edwards, she's a holistic biologist, a health practitioner, and a spiritual truther. Frank Schultz is a wellness advocate from Holistic Breakthrough Solutions. And you both came up with this activating your body's divine abilities. Can you talk to us about how ASEA relates to this activation?
Sure. So, as you know, or people may
Oh, real
not
quick, we
know,
want to do a medical disclaimer.
Because this is a natural product that we do a medical disclaimer. So we just want to say the information provided in this video is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended for medical advice or a substitute for advice for a physician or an other qualified healthcare professional. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure or prevent any medical condition, and you should always consult your doctor or a healthcare provider regarding any medical diagnoses or treatments. This content has not been evaluated by the FDA or any other medical body, and for transparency, redox signaling do not treat or cure any diseases, and the three of us are independent associates for ASEA, and we are sharing our personal experiences plus also publicly available information. That's that done.
Nice. Okay, Frank, take it away.
so as you well know, and many may not know, that we were created by our divine Father, Mother, God to heal ourselves. And our body was designed, but we have so many things working against us. The toxins in the air. And just yesterday, they were spraying the skies over my house. And I was just like, dear God, when is this going to stop? Our water supply is tainted with toxins. Our food supply is tainted with toxins, especially in the US and Canada. We're really, really impacted with toxins in our food and water supply. Elsewhere in the world, maybe not as much, but still there's toxins. And then there's the everyday life stress that I don't know anyone who doesn't have stress, and stress puts a damper on your body, and it makes your body hard to do what it was designed to do, and that's heal itself. And with the molecules, the redox molecules, it provides our bodies with that signaling to help repair those cells that are damaged. It's like two cell phones. If there's no network in between, they can't talk, right? But these molecules provide that communication signaling that is actually it's critical for life. And without them, we wouldn't even be alive. And Catherine, you might want to be able to elaborate on that if you'd like, because she's more of an expert than I am.
Well, I think one of the things that I'm so excited about, both of you, and some of what we say, we're going to be showing you the science behind it and backing up with science, and some of it is very much in terms of my understanding, our understanding of how it works, because we all know in the mainstream, even like the ether was taken out of the periodic table. And I think a lot of people, particularly your audiences, Laura, are really well aware of how much of our innate healing abilities have been hidden from us. And if you take a look at the ether, which, in spiritual terms is basically like the fifth dimension, the thing that connects everything that we can all tap into, and a lot of people are talking about fourth phase water, which is this water that we haven't really been told about, that is in like a gel like structure, which really mimics the cytosol, which is the fluid within every cell. And there's a point to what I'm saying here, because when we're talking about the spiritual connection of things, I think the three of us and most of the people watching understand that we're so much more powerful than we've been told. And I think when we look at the cytosol, which is the gel-like structure within every single living cell, whether you're human, plant, animal, and you look at the redox signaling molecules, which is what this water is, we're going to go into the details of that in more detail. But when you look at the link between the cytosol and and these redox molecules, the fourth phase water that we're all starting to hear a lot about now, and the ether that is what connects all of us at every level, we're seeing that a lot of the time they're the one and the same. So I think a lot of us are realizing that you can't separate physical health from emotional health and spiritual health. And there's works of people like Louise Hay that have looked at the emotional links to disease. But if our cells aren't healthy at a cellular level and aren't talking to each other, just like Frank said, we all know cell phones, and we can't see the signals that are going from my cell phone to Laura's and to Frank's. But if there's no base station, if there's no internet connection in between, these are just a glorified camera. And a bit is like with how our cells work. We're now, a lot of us are realizing that when we connect back out in nature and when we're healthy at a cellular level, we can connect into, whether you call it the ether, the divine matrix, this greater ability where we draw this knowledge from, and everything connects in beautifully. And I think once people start seeing how this works in the body, which we'll run into in a minute, they're going to be pretty blown away about understanding, well, this isn't just helping me physically, it's helping me connect in on a spiritual level as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Oh, you're muted, Laura.
Yes, absolutely makes sense. And they're been attempting and have been quite successful in disrupting those signals, our signals in our body, how we connect with source, all this interference, all this distortion. And yeah, our body is sort of a product of all of this until we begin to integrate this energy. And we need the extra support in our bodies because it's so
Especially
run
now.
down. It's so targeted.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like you were saying, Frank, especially now, because every period in history, whatever our history looks like, that's another discussion. But every period, we've got our own unique challenges, really, and stresses on us. But now is so different to everything else because we've got so much invisible stresses. We've got, as we're talking about, the chemtrails, we've got the EMF, and goodness knows what other frequencies are being thrown at us. So this disrupts that connection. And I mean, put your hand up here. Who feels disconnected a lot of the time? Our lifestyles are taking us out of nature from, we all know the benefits of when we ground, not just on a physical level, but on an emotional and a spiritual level. And this is why I love a lot of the work that you do, Laura, because you're so good at connecting those dots about looking at this sort of ancient wisdom and bringing it back into the real day and how we can make it really usable and proactive for all of us.
Oh, for sure. So help us understand a little bit more about what redox molecules are, as a mitochondrial byproduct being native to the body.
Do you want to start, Frank, or me?
You can take that one from a holistic biologist point of view.
Well, I'll start on the physical side of things, but in a nutshell, and of course, the beauty is we're learning all the time. That is one of the beauties of modern technology. This ancient knowledge that a lot of people have known, we can now start to prove scientifically. And I'm talking about real science, not the trust the science stuff. But if you take every cell of the body, and this applies whether you're a human, whether you're another species of animal, whether you're a plant, within each cell, we've got something called the cytoplasm, and that cytoplasm is like a jelly-like structure that connects everything all together. And a key part of that cytoplasm is something what we call redox molecules. And redox is just short for reductants and oxidants. And most people have heard of antioxidants, to bring down inflammation, etc. But we now know that actually you can have too much of a good thing because the oxidation side of things is just one side of the equation. Our
Right.
bodies, nature, everything is trying to get back into balance. I'm just moving. I've got that lovely ray of sun there. And homeostasis, balance, good girl, she's doing it. What happens with these redox molecules is because we've got the balance of the reductants and the oxidants, it brings your body back into balance, whatever the challenges are. So what these molecules do inside a cell, and no living cell of any species can survive more than a few seconds without these redox molecules, is not only is it making that cell behave optimally, but it's also sorting out the cell to cell communication. These are the communication molecules that get every bit of the body talking together. And when I mean what they're talking about optimally with the cell, we all know when we're young, if we fall over and cut ourselves, it repairs itself really quickly because everything's working really optimally. One, because our cells are very topped up when we're young with these redox molecules. But secondly, they haven't had enough time to be flooded with all the contamination because all these contaminants that Frank started about, they interfere with our cell working properly. You know, it's like if you've got a bucket of muddy water, if it's full up with gunk, you can't just pour spring water in and get rid of the gunk. You've got to clean out the gunk. So these redox molecules are in every cell of our body, but as we age or stress, all sorts of chemical and toxic pollution, they inhibit our body's ability to make them. And what happens then is our cells are replacing and regenerating all the time. But if I think most of you have heard of the terrain theory. If we're not getting the right signal, those cells don't repair in an optimal state, and that's when disease takes over. Equally, most diseases, scientists are now saying, are due to a breakdown of cellular communication. So we all know the big C word. I don't know which platform is going on, so how much I can say, Laura. But you know, the big C word is the cells are just reproducing in a wrong way. We can talk about other causes, what might cause that another day. But if your body starts sending the right signals, you stop that damaging cellular communication and you start returning your body to a state it was when everything was working well. So it's a bit like doing a virus cleanup on your computer or a control alt delete. Get rid of the rubbish and reset it to when things were behaving at a cellular level how they were meant to be.
Kind of
Yeah.
like a
Let,
washing machine for the cells.
yeah,
Absolutely.
really. Let me just share a quick connection between that big C. 2 years ago on Mother's Day, my mom was diagnosed with that big C in her lungs, stage 4. And I had come home and visited my mom for Mother's Day as a surprise, her and my sister. And she surprised me with that diagnosis. And I said, well, Mom, I've listened to you for 60 years, and now you're going to listen to me. That didn't fly too well, especially with a old school Italian mom. That doesn't fly. But anyways, after some resistance, and I said, Mom, you're going to nebulize these molecules every day, a couple times a day, and you're going to drink 8 ounces of them every day. Well, I don't have a nebulizer. I said, well, it'll be delivered tomorrow, so you do have a nebulizer. Anyways, to make a long story short, she has been behaving correctly and following my orders. And the last five now, just the other day, it was the fifth one. She has those scans that determine what's going on in her body. And in every five last CAT scans, those rogue cells are shrinking. And I got to tell you, the doctors are blown away. And she hasn't shared with them that she is taking the ASEA redox molecules. And I said, you don't have to. They can just be perplexed because honestly, when I shared it with my retina surgeon that I got my sight back, he was not interested in what it was or sharing it with other people who suffered the same thing I did and almost legally blind and lost my driving privileges.
What was the eye itch? What was the condition called?
So it was retinopathy from high blood sugars caused by type 2. High blood sugars will destroy your life if you allow it. And I will tell you now, um, I feel better at this age today than I did 4 years ago, even 2 years ago. And honestly, I attribute it all to my ASEA. Sure, I've made certain changes in my life, in my, eating cleaner, making sure my water's purified and structured and little things like that, because they all make a difference. But without that key, without that signaling, your body can't repair itself. You just don't have all the tools because we're missing so many of the nutrients and everything else it takes to restore your body to homeostasis health. So I just wanted to throw that in there and collaborate that C word with my own personal example of while I'm so on a mission to share this with everyone I know, because I know that there's not a single person out there that can't benefit. I mean, given the fact that you have 70 plus trillion, that's 12 zeros of cells in our body. I mean, everything our body is made up of cells completely. And so if someone thinks that there's not a few cells in their bodies that are not damaged, they'd be badly mistaken.
Right. Right. I mean, does this turn around like even zombie cells, or should those just be released? Does Redox help release those?
It's a really good question. Now, even though we're on a good platform where we can talk more freely, we're still not allowed to make medical claims about this because it will get the company into trouble because everyone knows about Big Pharma and about how Big Pharma controls everything. And if something is not a registered pharmaceutical product, you are legally, if we make any medical claims, it gets the company into trouble and then we might not all be able to get it. So to answer that question in a nutshell, if you imagine the zombie cells are when the communication has gone wrong and those cells are not behaving normally. What redox signaling molecules, and anyone can look up redox signaling molecules and all the studies on PubMed, there's thousands of them. And what the redox signaling molecules is get individual cells behaving normally and communicating normally. So there's no condition that they can't help with. The order that they bring your body back into balance, that we can talk about in a minute, we can't tell because the body's got an innate ability to heal and it will rebalance in the order that it needs to. So, like a common misconception is that redox molecules are bad for the microbiome. It's the complete opposite. We've got studies that show that the redox molecules rebalance your microbiome from your mouth all the way through your digestive system to when it comes out the other end. And that is absolutely key for every aspect of health because these molecules are not like reactive oxygen species. They're the combination of reductants and the oxidants, and that's what brings things back into balance. So when you're talking about any particular condition, the question people can ask themselves is, does this involve something going wrong at a cellular level? And if the
Right.
answer is yes, which is everything, then these can help with that.
Well, sounds like,
Um,
adaptogen and the way that we see adaptogen herbs, it responds to what is out of balance to bring back into balance, whether it's,
Yeah.
this extreme or the other, right?
But the difference with
yeah.
adaptogen herbs, which I love, and this isn't a substitute for, say, vitamin D or adaptogen herbs, but adaptogen herbs are not native to the body. They're absolutely brilliant, but we don't have adaptogen herbs within our cells.
Right.
This supplement is literally the only company in the world that has managed to make bioidentical redox signaling molecules and stabilize them outside the body. And the difference is, you'll pick up the bottle and it will say salt and water, but it's not salt and water. You've got the sodium and chloride and the oxygen and hydrogen. And the beauty of this is in the processing. And there's videos that people can show. But what it does is it breaks apart the bond just like our body does. So our body makes the redox signaling molecules from salt and water. And we all know the medical establishment have said salt's bad for you. Well, table salt is bad for you because it's full of all sorts of toxins. But real salt is needed for every function of the body. What do they do if they take you into ER? The first thing they do is get a saline solution put in. But they put the saline in, and then your body breaks apart those molecules and makes these redox signaling. That's exactly what ASEA have done in the lab, and they've got all the studies to show it is literally bioidentical. And there's no other study. So adaption herbs are absolutely brilliant, and there will be lots of other stuff, as Frank said, diet, nutrition, stress, grounding, EMF protection. They're all things that we all need to know about. But what this does is at a cellular level makes everything else you're doing work better. It's literally
Exactly.
foundational.
Yeah. And you mentioned one time that if you are taking like an antioxidant, or it'll increase the bioavailability of the things that are good for your like good nutritional habits. It'll increase its ability to work.
Correct. Absolutely. So what it does is it's making everything in your body work optimally. Now, how quickly it does that will be different for all of us because from puberty onwards, and Frank, just butt in when you want me to do, you've got something to add, but from puberty onwards, our ability to make these redox signaling in our cells decline, which I was gobsmacked about actually. I thought it's
Yeah.
a lot older than that, but it's not. And they've studied this. And we can see that in common sense. We can see what our skin looks like. We can see how quickly a fractured bone. I mean, my son was so accident prone when he was younger. He healed so easily. But if you break a bone at 60, it's not going to heal quite as quickly unless you're doing the right things as it did when you were 5. And if you break a bone at 90, it can be even more problematic because your body's not got that resilience in there. So this is putting back the resilience. But the longer you've had a condition, or an imbalance, or the more toxins or stress you've been exposed to, the more you've got to fill back up cell by cell by cell your body with this. So that's why often, say if you're a 60-year-old person with some sort of chronic disease, you might want to flood your body with these and take more initially to top it up to get your body back into balance. And then when you've got it back in balance, you can reduce the amount to keep it there.
Yeah, exactly. Catherine, I've talked with so many people. I've planted so many seeds, and a lot of the response I get back from people is, "Well, I'm healthy. I don't need this." And they may very well be, but isn't it true that people don't know that they have a disease or illness until it's too late? And I don't mean too late that it's life threatening, but bam, all of a sudden your body has this condition, and you could have maybe curtailed it had you done certain things like taking redox so that you make sure that all your cells are functioning the way they were designed to.
Yeah,
I love
totally.
I love that. I mean, Laura, have you heard of iridology? Have you ever had an iridology assessment done?
I used to, yeah, I've read books about it. I just met somebody who actually does iridology, the study of the eyes, right? So
Yeah,
talk
iris
with,
of the eyes. Yeah, so I'm an iridologist and I do iridology with animals. And without going into how it works, it's quite amazing. It's a vibrational rate of the cell that shows up as the markings of the eye because the colored part, the iris of the eye, the colored part of the eye forms during embryonic development from the central nervous system. But the reason that's key to what Frank said is most people who work with complementary medicine or complementary therapies of all sorts, and there's so many brilliant ones out there. That's the beauty. There's so much choice for people, but they know that the signs will show up way before someone gets symptoms. So a good iridologist can see imbalances in the body way
Wow.
before that person will notice a symptom. So a classic example, that's how I studied iridology, because I went for a reading and they told me something that I went on to be diagnosed with 6 to 9 months later. And by the way, I was really awkward in the consult. I was like, no, 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 I don't have that because I didn't know I had it at the time, but they could see it in my eye. So what Frank was saying is so true, is often by the time we or our animals are aware that there's something wrong, the problem's been developing for quite a long while. And of course,
Right.
the sooner you get the body back into balance, the easier it is.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
You,
So,
this Redox technology is actually pretty new. Um, from my research, and Catherine and Laura, you correct me, but from what I found, that the first redox molecule technology wasn't discovered until 1997, and those researchers actually won a Nobel Peace Prize in 1998. So when you look back, we're not that far along, and yet ASEA continues to invest in research and development in collaboration with universities and laboratories around the world to develop the next best edition of this product. I mean, when the topical version came out, I think that was better than sliced bread.
mhm,
There's that product is just incredible.
Have you
yeah,
tried that, Laura? Because I think human nature as it is, that's why I like working with animals more than humans, really. Because they're so easy. They don't, their ego doesn't get in the way. And I'm not meaning go in a bad way. But have you tried the topical, Laura?
oh yeah. And I just read the email that you sent Frank about putting it on the back of your neck, and the feet, right? I did all
Yeah,
that.
at the bottom of your feet and your
Vagus
vagus
nerve.
nerve.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been using it on my skin. I've sent it along to individuals that have had really good results. So yeah.
I love
Um,
the topical because the reason I was asking is I think for humans, if we can see something like the effect on our skin, it makes us believe us and removes some of the resistance. It's like the new gold gel, which focuses on the relief and recovery. We're not allowed to say the word pain because that's a medical term. But if people are in discomfort, pain, then if they can have something that can take that away naturally and have the science to show how it speeds up the repair process, that's much easier for people to understand than something that's working to bring their whole body back into balance for problems that they may or may not know it's there. And I just love it for that reason because my mum, she's on a couple of drugs and she's got really bad bruising on her arms because where the dogs paw her, she's got quite a few dogs and it bruises and she bruises really easily. And I think a lot of older people have that problem where they bruise really easily. So she did a trial. She was like, "Oh, I've seen the science, but I don't know, Catherine, it's American, just like American stuff." So she put the gel, the Osea Renu 28, on one arm and not on the other. And she was completely blown away because one, the bruising was going straight away. So that hit home for her way more than any of the science studies I'd actually sent her.
yeah. Well,
Sure.
that's right. And when people say, "Oh, it's a placebo" or this and
Yeah,
that, it's just so irritating because when you're giving it to somebody that's already stubborn and then they see the results, it's a whole nother thing. Um, so like immune regulating, right?
yeah,
So if you have autoimmune, is it safe? Like it's not going to throw the body out of whack because it brings it back into balance. So it's not about increasing the immune system; it's about regulating it so that the body doesn't attack itself. I
that
know we can't
is,
make claims, but
yeah,
what is your experience with that?
that is such a really important question. I'm so happy you asked that because obviously that's one of the main things that are affecting not only people but animals at the moment. And this is what, when you're looking at any holistic therapy, just like you mentioned with the adaptogens earlier, Laura, the reason the adaptogenic herbs are so potent is because they bring your body back into balance. And that's exactly what ASEA does. So there's a lot of schools of thought, which personally I agree with, that most autoimmune conditions are actually due to toxins within your body that the body can't recognize and find. And so it sets off this reaction. So the redox can work in two ways. What it does is it regulates every cell of your body to bring it back into balance. You don't get that overreactivity. So similarly, on an emotional level, just as an analogy, if someone is suffering with depression or anxiety, it can downregulate those pathways, bring it back into balance. But sorry, it can, will bring you back into balance. So if you're or depressed, feeling low, it can raise up the right sort of serotonin, dopamine balances in the body and get the receptors working properly. So you feel more uplifted. But if you're hyperactive, it will bring it down. And that's exactly the same as the autoimmune conditions. And we're talking about redox here because we're not allowed to say this in front of us here. The redox molecules and bring the body back into balance. So it's the other thing that is impossible for anyone to be allergic to it. So herbs, essential oils, and everything are absolutely wonderful, and I recommend them a lot. But anyone can be allergic to something, however good it is medicinally. You cannot be allergic to redox because it's in every single cell of every single one of us. If we didn't have it in us, we'd be dead. Also, it cannot interfere with any prescribed medication or other herbal products you're using. It can make them work more efficiently. So, say if you're on a medication for some sort of disease, you would need to work with your medical practitioner because you might not need so much of the medication because if the medication is trying to substitute for something that's not working in your body, for example, and your
I got
body
the
starts
goosies, Catherine,
working again
because
properly, then you might not need so much of the medication.
I have a perfect example of that. And my doctor's response is just brilliant. So, as a result of taking my redox molecules diligently every day and sometimes increasing it because I had a number of health issues. So, I was doing the injectable stuff to bring down the blood sugars. I no longer have a need for any of those medications. And my doctor is like, Frank, I've never seen a diabetic patient with this perfect blood work as yours. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm taking redox molecules. And he said, redox molecules. He's like, I'm going to do some studying on that. And he said, Frank, my directions to you is keep taking it. In fact, double it because you're doing amazing. You're down 100 pounds. You're there's not a single test that you have a concern with. You're like your health. You turn back the clock. So that is just a perfect example where a physician who is awoken, let's say that he's awoke. He's on his own spiritual journey and very enlightened. And many doctors won't tell you that. But I blowed him away. And now he's like, Frank, I'm going to refer patients to you that are open to it. And the problem is most people are
Mm.
skeptical, and they don't want to invest the money. Well, I say, if your body isn't worth investing the money in, what in the hell is? This is your primary investment you should be making is in your body. Everything else should come second. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just felt that that was kind of tied into what you were talking about. Um, I'm I'm basically pharmaceutical free.
Mm. It's what we all want to be.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
And when you think of all the side effects that come with the pharmaceuticals, it's unbelievable, you know? And when you think about people being actually worried about something or skeptical about something, but they're okay with taking something with like 10 side effects that keeps you in that loop. Yeah,
Because they're
I mean, this is
programmed, the commercials on TV, every other one is a pharmaceutical drug.
yeah.
And we
Every
don't
TV.
have that in the UK. So, that's why it's so useful to speak to people on different areas of the world because we've all got different challenges, different information being thrown at us. But the skeptical side of things, I think it's worth, talking about because in one respect, it's so funny because we don't want people just being told trust the science, having an experience yourself. But I don't know if you find, Laura, that I know you work with a lot of natural things and you're very holistic yourself, that a lot of people say that they want to step away from the pill popping approach, but our bodies have taken quite a long while often to get out of balance, and therefore we need to be gentle to them to put them back into balance because sometimes, for example, it's like doing a detox if your immune system's not strong enough can send you into a healing crisis. I mean, I know we can get spontaneous recoveries like people like Joe Dispenza saying, but do you find, Laura, that there's still a resistance with people to giving natural healing modalities of any sort the time to do their job?
Giving up too quick, you mean?
Yeah, giving up too quick and
Oh
not
yeah, it's like if it doesn't
time.
happen overnight, if it doesn't work overnight, oh yeah, yeah, it doesn't work for me. It's just a placebo, or I don't see the use in it. And people have a hard time incorporating it into their habits.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they can stick with the habits that aren't necessarily healthy. Like they'll grab that beer or they'll just do habitual things. But I like to say, when you reach for something as a vice, reach for something that actually is going to heal you and give you a natural, high on life, your joy, bring you your joy back. And the astrology right now is very, very compatible with these sort of breakthroughs connected with ether, the Ophiuchus, the 13th sign coming in November 30th to December 17th. This ether energy is available. It was weaponized. It was put in
Yeah.
reversal. It was really blocked from us. And so we've become very, very toxic as a result. Like we talked about, those signals have not been, connecting. So what is coming in is matched with what's available to make our body hospitable for spirit to truly dwell in our physical uh, vessels, activating the cells, moving it from this really heavy density into the crystalline, which is really this golden age, is the alchemy of turning lead into gold, turning the toxicity into a higher vibration. So I feel like people resist it because they're letting go of a dependency bond
Yeah.
that they looked outside to direct them and guide them with religion, with government, with politics. Even if we haven't all thought on the same trajectory, it's the conquer and divide of it's either this or that. What's your label? And I feel this integration is such a huge step for people that they're almost resisting it because their self-worth has been targeted as well. Oh, what will people think? Or if I actually do this, will I love myself on a whole different level? Will I truly connect to source that either you were repelled by from religion or you're so dependent on that even stepping away from the falsities and distortions there can be a huge step for people. And recognizing that, we are becoming Christed beings. We are becoming vessels of the very teachings that have externalized it. And remembering that it's coming from within, even though that is noted in a lot of ancient texts, it's a huge leap for people. Because as you know, you get the stubbornness from family and friends. You get sort of this,
Yeah.
oh, I can't believe you're not going this way, because you can feel the deep insecurity to the choices that they're making, that they defend, and they're very uncomfortable about the breakthroughs that they can only project, because the system isn't designed to house this. It was rigged to keep the star seeds from remembering who they are, to keep us from taking this leap. So because the system is rigged this way, people don't realize how much it has been installed as a program, inside their bodies that has overtaken their nervous system, and kept them from wanting to explore the dark night of the soul without wanting to medicate it. Oh, I'm depressed or I'm anxious. Let me just make that go away, instead of appreciating the journey it takes you on. And to have your cells being cleared invites you with more grace and ease to step into that, knowing that your body is supported. So I do run into that stubbornness. A lot of the people that come to me are ready to take that leap, but it's amazing to see the resistance that's very unconscious. And I notice that when they start to take these products, the body is not resisting. So it's not talking to the mind like that epigenetics of let me keep the programming alive, or the damaged DNA frequency pattern alive. The dialogue is changing between the body, mind, and spirit. The dialogue is higher self talking to the body because now it has the clarity. But the resistance is, the parasitic energies and the distortions have a certain intelligence, but it's a
Yeah.
low frequency. It's not higher intelligence. It's just the AI signals.
I
But it
could
speaks
listen
to
to
a
you
person.
for
They mistake it.
hours.
They mistake it for their own inner voice. Oh, well, I could listen to you guys for hours. But yeah, I just wanted
Yeah,
to, share that because the astrology is really supporting these breakthroughs, and it's right under all our noses to jump
Oh,
on board. But what were you going to say, Frank?
I was going to say for all the folks that listen to this, if you have never booked a reading with Laura before, I will tell you it will change your life for the better.
mm.
And if you think that redox does not help your spiritual growth and ascension, you'd be badly mistaken, because it increases your vibration, as Laura was alluding to. So, book a reading with Laura, and then come talk to me for if you're interested in booking products under Laura. I can help you. But Laura, that astrological view and those points that you make, I don't know. They're just so, maybe they're above people's understanding, or maybe people are finally starting to get it. Where are we in terms of timelines? And I mean, the timeline and the connection with holistic products to help the body heal, does it go together?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The North Node is in Pisces. The South Node is in Virgo. So when I was talking about the body, mind, spirit integration, that's really what this nodal axis is about. And the nodes are all about integration of polarity. It represents our soul growth. So when we look at the transits, it's the soul growth that humanity is currently undergoing. So we might have our South Node, North Node in our natal chart, but what we're all experiencing is the South Node Virgo, North Node Pisces. So the soul knows to come into this physical density and integrate polarity. That's what the nodes represent. So the eclipses and the activations of the nodal axis are like, okay, South Node is the past, what we're reflecting upon. North Node is what we're integrating. And it's not past as in a linear past, but it's more like reflection. So Virgo being about our physiology, physical lifestyle, habits, and routine, ruled by Mercury being an earth sign, is how does the mind talk to the body? If it's speaking programmings, if it's speaking distortion, unresolved ancestral wounds, traumas that have been buried, the things that have been unconscious, then the body suffers and it's in dis-ease. When we go into the North Node to integrate, we move into the Piscean energy ruled by Neptune, the multidimensional, the unseen realms, the creative imagination. Where has that been infected with propaganda, false narratives, programmings, unresolved wounds to turn the unconscious conscious. So then we move beyond the lower astral of Neptune, the lower dimensional energies where entities and archons and parasitic forces hook into us and our mind that speaks to the body, things that reinforce disease. And then when we step into that, we begin to break the frequency fences. We begin to break through the illusion, and we begin to pierce into like the higher self, higher dimensional energies, and we tap into our visions, our dreams, our higher guidance. And then that speaks to the body. Then all of a sudden, the body begins to heal. But if there's a lot of toxicity and pollution in that lower astral, we're not going to be able to penetrate into the higher realms because it's so dense and it's so heavy. And we're just constantly like in fight or flight, and we're looking outside of ourselves, just like what happened with the pandemic. For any false flag or psyop, like, oh, who's going to solve it? Who's going to fix it? We don't recognize the game being played to keep us stuck. And then the body just carries that heaviness. So this integration process is, wow, we can be more conscious and clear. We need to clear that energy. So what is the metaphorical kind of thing is as the redox molecules, as products like ASEA help to clear that, the mind becomes cleared and it's able to access the higher self. The higher self is sort of locked out of the body as long as the toxicity is heavy. But it's not just the food we eat, it's what we consume from the news, from the false realities that the mind speaks to the body, which keeps that frequency alive and that heavy density of depression, of divide and conquer, of anger. Mars square Chiron, Mars ego identity square Chiron, the wounded healer. And then the square to Pluto with Chiron is really like the breaking point of where these wounds have to be redirected into the warrior path of healing instead of being proud of your victimhood or looking outside to resolve a pain that is void of wisdom, that is looping in this constant just trigger response to every trigger event. And the more conscious we are of that, the more clear we get. And to move through that gateway in and of itself brings the ether in to purify the cells. But if we don't have that extra support in our physiology with these kind of things, it's easy to get bombarded and give up and just feel like my spiritual path isn't working no matter what I do. Well, we have to get to it on a cellular level because we're talking generation after generation of this being passed down. That DNA damage is not DNA damage of your physical. It's a programming or a belief system that has become unconscious that was rooted, decades, thousands and thousands of years ago. Beyond decades, right? From childhood too. But like when you trace it back, oh, I just inherited this. No, you didn't. You inherited a belief system and a thought pattern that your unconscious hasn't unlocked yet. So when we clear all this away, the clarity comes in. So this is the south node, north node, the mind speaking to the body. If it meets with a program or a distortion or an ancestral wound, can you be transparent? Can you have dialogue with it and say, you know what, I'm going to break that. I'm going to break that pattern. But again, I think we found that we start to do that inner work, but if our physical body isn't supported, you just hit a wall. And people give up. They go back to their addictions. They go back to the alcohol. They go back to the drugs. They go back to the hopelessness. They begin to retreat. They begin to just say, I don't fit in here. I don't belong. But the thing is, we're breaking down the system. We're de-weaponizing the weapons when we can stand present and actually allow this transmutation to occur. And then the parasites don't have anything to feed on, and you actually collapse the system.
So honestly, it's just phenomenal. And I think, Vida Austin's work where she sort of shows, I don't know if people are familiar with it, but she gets one beautiful egg from a chicken that's been raised in the most amazing natural circumstances and surrounds it with eggs that are factory farmed. And in a nutshell, she shows through her beautiful freezing technique that the one egg that's so vibrant and high vibration can effectively heal the other eggs. And we've heard so much about the sort of scale of consciousness and about, I don't know the exact figures, you might know more, Laura, about how one person who's really working to keep their vibration high, because everything's showing that we are all vibration, hence bringing in the ether discussion to it and the consciousness, that you imagine this community of people who are doing the work and keeping their physical vessel as pure and in a receiving state as possible. Just imagine the impact we're going to have on fitting that in with the astrology in terms of moving the world in the direction that we all want. It's so exciting.
Very,
Very
very.
exciting. Yeah, so
I
I mean, I know that was a bit of I didn't mean to share so much on that, but like,
Oh, it's
I mean,
fab.
it
this is
was
what I got when,
amazing.
oh yeah, well, when I gave, reading to you, when you see that in the chart, like your progress chart, Frank, went from a lot of squares with the outer planets to harmony, and all the steps that it took to get you there, having the outer planets in Virgo, which has to do with physiology. Your physical vessel was designed to hold a lot of light and a lot of regenerative power. But it came in, having to kind of move through all of that to get to the other side. So when this came along, it was a huge breakthrough. Your consciousness was already informing your body the readiness for it, and then you were able to perceive the synchronicities that gave you the complement in your physical lifestyle. And so that was a beautiful thing to see. And that's actually, Frank didn't talk me into starting to take the water. I listened to his story. I read his chart, Catherine's too, her story, just the work that she does. So credible, so brilliant that I'm like, Frank, tell me more. And then I started to take it, and I can actually take it traveling with me with the little shot glass. I made the mistake originally of drinking it straight out, and they're like, no, 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 you don't want to do that. You pour it into the cup, and I have a few
Actually,
shots a
the
day.
sports pouch, you can drink it directly from the pouch.
I
Because,
squirt it so my mouth doesn't touch, like from afar,
Yeah.
like.
okay, perfect, perfect. I would
And
tell you that the whole I've been following Catherine for a number of years now, and God, Catherine, the work you do for animals, that's what really touches my heart is because people are, but the work you do with animals and people, just it touched me. And I, so I've been listening to you for at least 4 years, maybe five now. And when you had that show on Redox, when you were talking about it, you had a podcast, and I had just gotten back from the retina surgeon, and his message to me was, "You're going to come back in 6 months, and by the way, prepare for losing your driving privileges because you are legally blind, and there's nothing more we can do for you after two injections in the eyeball, which is rather unpleasant, and multiple laser surgeries." He said, "My hands are washed." And so I'm sitting at the kitchen table listening to you on my laptop thinking, can't think of any reason why in the world why I wouldn't try this. So, Catherine, thank you to you for being that catalyst of sharing what you know from your heart that makes a difference in everyone's life should they take it upon themselves to try it. It will absolutely make a difference. And if you're not following Catherine right now, you're making a huge mistake because these two ladies right here are absolutely brilliant and they do it from their heart and the phenomenal minds that they have. So I just wanted to throw that in there because if it hadn't been for me following you and that just that same day I got that diagnosis, I don't know where I would be. I'd be blind, right? I mean, 2.5 months later, vision completely restored, factors blown away.
but so
Thank you,
taking
Redox.
the actions, you did the actions. So both of us have readings with Laura and just phenomenal. I mean, your reading, Laura, reminded me of the reading I had with the iridologist who could just look into my eyes and just tell me everything about myself physically, emotionally, spiritually. I was just so blown away. But the thing is, what we're all seeing now in our community, and I really think, Laura, you've got such a wonderful, enlightened listeners because the work that you do, it's like we have to take action. And I think we're all realizing, like you were just saying to Frank, we're at the stage now where we've actually got all the tools we need and pulling together and helping each other out because everyone's got a little bit of the jigsaw puzzle. Every single person listening to this has got a bit of the jigsaw puzzle. And the one thing I love, which I do want to mention, because from I don't know what it's like in the USA, but in the British side of things, they're really anti-network marketing. But don't let if anyone's got any negative connotations, I just really want to address that because first and foremost, you don't have to, it doesn't matter, it's just the way it's sold. But if you walked into a health food shop and saw a blue bottle which said salt water, you wouldn't have a clue how it works. So the beauty is if you want it, you get so much support. There's scientists, there's doctors, there's naturopaths, there's every type of person, but you don't have to have that support, but it's there if you need. So Frank is so amazing at what he does. And anyone who wants to support Laura and order using your link, Frank's going to be able to be there to be with you every step of the way, not only to make sure you get the right products for you at the best possible price, and you're not tied into anything. You can just buy it retail. You'll just pay more like that. But Frank will be doing that. So this is what I love. You know, we've had so much talk over the last few years about community, but this is a real community, isn't it, Frank? It's a real community of people helping each other out because we really want to change the world.
Yes. And I would say for the listeners in the US and Canada, if you want to know more about Redox, the science and the benefits, there's a call every Tuesday evening with Dr. Carolyn Hoffman that I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you listen to. If you're interested in that link for that call, happy to share. There's calls in Spanish. There's people supporting this company and product globally, and your ethnic background or language is no barrier for the use and benefits of Redox because we have you covered everywhere that we're able to distribute the product. Now, understand there are some countries that are against it. So it's not everywhere, but it sure is a great global presence and growing.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the things that is great about that is, you know, we're in a time now where we're all supporting each other in whatever area you're looking at. You know, this is how we change the world is by supporting each other and building new systems. And you know, I've just been doing a series on deprogramming, and the thing is, when you're vibrant and you feel strong, you don't succumb to the fear in the same way. You feel resilient. You can have the courage to not comply when you need to. It makes all the difference in the world. And so I think getting ourselves that balance of the physical strength, the emotional strength, and the spiritual strength, then we become unstoppable. And the parasite class, I hate, they're not elites, they're the parasite class, they just disappear.
Well, I mean, when you
Yep.
look at all of that, down to the very micro of clearing a cell so it can function at its highest capacity, that's happening on the planet.
Yeah,
You know, everything that's invaded the collective consciousness is being cleared and purified. You know, and the things that are able to transform and become repaired, you know, stay within that process, but the things that are ejected are the ones that aren't willing, and that's kind of the bifurcation, is that this organism is being cleared and purified, um and only those willing are going to you know, move through that, you know, transformation. Anything, you know, that isn't won't be able to like enter. It won't be able to pierce that auric field, I guess you could say, or that cellular membrane. You know, so it's that down to the micro macro. That's really what the Virgo Pisces, because the Virgo is very much the micro, our physical body, our physiology. Neptune is very vast. It's very much about the collective consciousness. It's very much about you know, the multidimensional, but you know, the larger field of energy. Um, and when it's cleansed of the parasitic and the archons and the entities and all the things that feed on amnesia and unconsciousness, that integration process really is what anchors heaven on earth. So when we do it in our body, it sends out that signal, like you said, with the eggs, it ripples out. And this is the process that's underway, and it's very well underway in our favor. And it's designed and coded in us. That's our divine inheritance is, you know, this restoration and return is encoded in us, and all they can do is distract us away from it, but they can never damage or destroy this deeper inner soul calling. And all these beautiful things are just ways to support it. So it's a lot more easy on the system. I noticed taking this, it doesn't have like, you know, one of those, you know, some things have a major Herkimer reaction or like a response that is very, very uncomfortable. I've not experienced that. What about you? Have you ever seen anybody that's had that kind of experience?
I haven't. I mean, this is what I love about it. I mean, this is where we're here to advise. So, you know, anyone who is interested, Frank's details will be below, and he's supporting Laura's team, you know, as well. But the beauty is that we can help advise based on people's belief systems, based on their current state of health, what they feel comfortable with, to make sure they start taking the right amount for themselves to get the best possible results. Personally, I haven't seen anyone, and I also work a lot with animals with this. I haven't seen any of that. But I think, the beauty is for anyone who's watching this to really listen to their body and work with Frank as a support, and you get the support of all of us basically. To, if you've got any concerns about that, don't worry, we'll support you through that and make sure it's at a pace that your body works with that's right for you.
Absolutely.
Oh, and you're so helpful. It's wonderful to have that go to really answer any questions
And there's no
You
and
know,
wrong
this
bell
is,
at all.
channel, your YouTube channel, and just and you do consultations as well, right? So we'll have all your details.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Frank and I work together a lot. Frank's got a fantastic new program coming up supporting men, which I'm sure you'll hear more about. I work with animals, humans, and the beauty thing is if people are interested in it, book a call with Frank. His details will be there. One thing I promise you, there'll be no hard sell. It's about when people are ready, but I really feel based on, what you were saying, we can all feel it. And that astrology, I'm going to re-listen to it, Laura. It was so amazing, but we can all feel
absolutely.
the shifts and we can all feel that the time is now. And I just think I'm excited for people as individuals, not just the collective, but it's so beautiful when you work with people that are open to doing the work themselves for themselves and for their animals, because it literally transforms your life. So good on anyone. If you're ready to take the next step in your health, then fantastic. You won't regret it at all.
Oh, totally. And another thing came to mind too is breaking that energetic cord,
Oh
because
yeah.
if something parasitic is like feeding on you, convincing you need it, but actually it's manipulating you so it can actually take your energy and siphon it and harvest it. And and the reason that's such a difficult bond to break is because it tricks you into thinking that you need it.
Mm.
And this is really just the reclamation of sovereignty on a physical human level, and becoming a vessel that can house spirit in the higher dimensions is absolutely what this awakening is all about on a cellular level. So
Yeah.
And the beauty is you can all watch and see us and see how we're evolving. And, that's the thing, isn't it? The results speak for themselves. So I think, people need to try what's right for them. And I suppose the thing is if there's any area of your life that it's not working out for you, then the great thing is there's so many tools out there that can help you, but you've got to make a change. And as you say, I found it so much easier to kick my bad habits. Now I'm feeling so much stronger and resilient physically.
yeah.
Because let's face it, people that are on this journey of discovery, we are bombarded with so much negativity, so much fear at every corner, and making sure you give yourself the helping hand to have that resilience, for me, has really helped me sort of slipping down that slope that I used to do a lot more regularly.
Oh, me too. Yeah, it was more about coping and just like I have to be here. Now it's like being full on present. It's
Yeah.
like I'm going to ground here, and reclaim. This is not their planet. We are conduits of, just the mother, father, source, our divine blueprint. This has been an invasion and a hijack put in reversals to digress us, to shorten our lives, to keep us sick and dependent. So it's beautiful. And yeah, the timing of this coming couldn't be more in tune with this time of, ascension, which really is advancing our human vessels and becoming fully conscious of all that we came here to be. So beautiful, guys. Any final words that you want to share?
Uh, if I may, I'd like to share a photo of then and now,
Mm.
just to kind of give some perspective to our listeners on my transformation. And
Yeah, that'd be
it
amazing to
may
see.
resonate, it may not, but I'm gonna share it. So if you can see, this is back in 2022. Um, very overweight. No wonder why I had high blood sugar problems and other health issues with inflammation and whatnot. And this is 3 years later and
Wow.
3 years older. So, you know, you can accomplish anything you want in your life. It's just a matter of putting your heart and soul into it. And I will tell you, I am not a salesperson. I have never done network marketing before I started with ASEA. I have 35 years with my company that I bust my tail for. It's stressful, it's demanding, and yet I still find time for this passion to share something I know from my heart and my experience that really makes a difference in your life. So my time is extremely limited, yet I will take all the time that it takes to help anyone transform their health because I believe it can be done.
That's so beautiful, Frank. And I haven't got anything that can add to that apart from that my greatest wish is that every single one of us just keeps believing in themselves, and regardless of what's happening in your past, that does not define your future at all. And I think my personal sort of belief understanding is that us humans are sort of guardians of this absolutely beautiful planet and all creatures great and small, and that doesn't mean we're in dominion over it. It just means we're like beautiful guardians to take care and nourish and nurture. And we have to start doing that with ourselves first, because if we're not in that vibration, it's so hard for, we all know our animals pick up when we're upset, angry, miserable, and we don't have to be like that. We can be in that present state that Laura was talking about and really appreciate the just beauty of what we've all been given here.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to end on this one note. The ether connected to the
Mm,
mitochondrial DNA is the great purifier of the earth, air, fire, and water. The nucleic acids in our DNA are earth, air, fire, water, and this mitochondria, this ether, relates and connects with the unconditional love of source. So this is just such a blessing and gift to yourself because it will clear these other elements. And you know what? The earth responds to us. So when we clear our inner elementals, we actually help the planet to clear herself of the weaponry and degradation of the environment, the pollution, all the toxicity, the geoengineering. We're in direct relationship with this planet in that way.
beautiful. Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Laura, for hosting us. Thank you so much, Frank, for arranging it. And we all love working together. For me, it's just such a gift to be working with such amazing people. So thank you both.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you, Catherine and Laura, for what you do. And like I mentioned before, if you're not following Catherine and Laura right now, please do, because it's going to change your life like it did for me in
Aw.
multiple ways.
Same with both of you guys. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.